What up? What up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show for Thursday, February 26th. Oh, I'm on a 2-day streak of getting the date correct. Yes, that is my only goal for the second half of the season. As I said yesterday, I'm perfect. Let's go. Sean Gentille here with Shayna Goldman, SG1, as I christened her on the podcast yesterday. Michael Russo as well. Haley Salvian, currently somewhere in the airs over the Atlantic Ocean, I believe. She was in Switzerland for a couple days. Hope that went well. I assume she'll be back next week, but who can say? The NHL is back too. 3-week Olympic break. There were 8 games last night, so guys got back to work in 8 different cities. We're going to talk about that shortly. But first, we are going to try to put a pin in the aftermath of the U.S. men's decisions regarding their post-gold medal celebration and little field trip to Washington, D.C. Yesterday, a large chunk of those guys were asked about that. Of course, it's back to work, as we said. And their answers were, for the most part, uninteresting and fairly non-reflective. I don't think we should be surprised by that. They had to get asked the questions. They had to give the answers. I think they were generally pretty rote and as you would expect. We have a roundup on the site for posterity's sake, if that's something that interests you. Many of them fell back on a variation of one line, and this is how PR training works. We heard that it's a shame to see all this politicized. That was sort of the go-to. It's a shame to see all this politicized. And I do agree with that. It certainly is a shame. Millions and millions and millions of other people agree with it as well. If you want to move on from this, I understand, and we are almost there. But before we do that, there is one more point that needs to be made. The players who were mad about this moment being politicized are the ones who politicized the moment. The call is coming from inside the house. Bill Guerin politicized it when he invited a politically appointed FBI director to the locker room. The players politicized it when they were so over-the-top excited to talk to Donald Trump that they laughed at a joke that demeaned a bunch of women who they say they love and respect, and we believe them based on plenty of evidence. That's fine. They further politicized it when they attended not just a White House meet and greet, but the most dictionary definition political event in American life, which is the State of the Union address. So if you're mad about it being politicized, you can blame them. And if they're mad at the moment being politicized, they can look in the mirror. Yesterday, they had to deal with some very mild repercussions of their actions while continuing to bathe in the glory of the win. And we can look at what happened to Jack Hughes in New Jersey for all the evidence we need there. He got a hero's welcome, and it was deserved. It was wild seeing Jack get choked up on the mic. It was a moment that was well earned by his performance on the ice there. The women's team also had to deal with those repercussions as well. Did they not, Shayna?
Yep, they did. And I think the whole thing is none of us wanted this to be political. There's always a risk when you're representing your country, especially with everything that's going on in this country right now. But also, we kind of did see all this happen at Four Nations, right? And it felt like there was a way to avoid this. And the answer isn't saying, well, they shouldn't have accepted a call from Donald Trump in the locker room. You are a gold medal winning team. You should get a call from the president of the United States congratulating you. You are going to be invited to the White House. If you choose to attend, so be it, right? It doesn't have to go any further than that, right? I don't expect players to jump in and fight Donald Trump on the phone about laughing at women, right? I think we're kind of realistic here, but you don't have to lean into it. And then you don't have to cry that everyone's making it political and then turn around and, I don't know, wear a Trump hat, which the Hugheses did, which Tage Thompson wore a MAGA hat. That's where the lines aren't just getting blurred. It becomes black and white. You don't have to attend the State of the Union. You could just go to the White House. But you could also make the argument that this is an NHL season and everyone could also get back to business and get their heroes welcome in their respective cities after partying, which they should do. And now it feels like so much pressure, as always, is on the women to kind of clean up for it. And I think Hillary Knight put it so well yesterday saying, the jokes are distasteful. They're unfortunate. And that, it's not a woman's behavior to have to sit in front of everyone and explain someone else's behavior. And it does feel like they're being forced to do that. And I know some of that falls on everyone for making it a conversation. But unfortunately, like, we're here. It is a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it just feels like none of this had to unfold this way. Hopefully it is a teaching moment for one, how to talk about women, how to show your respect for women publicly and privately, and also how to keep the focus where it should be, which should be on this like momentous moment for men and women's hockey in America.
Mm-hmm. Russo, yesterday you spoke to the Minnesota, well, 4 of them at least. There's plenty of them. That's a roster that's stacked with Olympians. 4 of the
6 of
Frost US Olympians. You talk with Taylor Heisey, Grace Sunwinkle, Kelly Panic, Britta Curl Salami. There's a piece on the site, of course, detailing all of that. It's absolutely worth people's time. But you've spent a lot of time with them, especially over the last few months. What did you learn yesterday about those players?
Yeah, I think it's to Shayna's point. I think the sad part is that this video that came out of the men's locker room sort of overshadowed their accomplishment, because all of a sudden the president begrudgingly invited them to the White House with the men. They obviously, the one thing I will say is that it is 100% true that the women didn't take the president's, up on his offer, not because of the joke, but because, remember, they left before the men. They were already essentially all over the world in North America, going back to their college and professional teams. And that is the reason why they were going. I thought what was interesting, though, is that then during the State of the Union address, the president announced that the women will be coming to the White House soon. That seemed to be news to all of them. The USA Hockey did put out a statement that they'd be, that they're very grateful for the invite, and that after their seasons are over, they will, consider it. But every single one of them didn't know what that was about. They basically, kind of surmise maybe this is when the president, which is tradition, invites a lot of the USA athletes to the Olympians to the White House. Taylor Heisey basically said that it'll be up to Hillary Knight, and we kind of heard a little bit about what her opinion was of the joke yesterday. But the one thing that was very clear to me from talking to the 4 women that I talked to yesterday is that none of them really blamed the men for the laughing of the joke that seemed to offend a lot of people, at least in the most vocal area that we all know to listen to, and that is social media. They in their minds, being caught up in the moment when the president is talking. Like Taylor Heisey pointed out to me, you could hear Dylan Larkin and Brock Nelson on the video before he cracked the joke, basically saying 2 for 2. You could hear Matthew Tkachuk, after the president said that we're going to invite the women, say absolutely. And in their opinion, they are going to go with the pattern that they saw from the men during the entire tournament that they were there for. And that is respect and support, hanging out together in the village, the men coming to their games and vice versa. And that they're not going to, let 1 second of a laugh when they were in this euphoric state. Like Britta Curl said, take their example. When they were in their victorious locker room, they would have laughed at anything being said. They were so excited and about winning. And so I know that a lot of people want to jump on the men for, laughing at an inappropriate joke. But from the women's point of view, they believe that this men's hockey team supported them throughout, and that they're going to go with essentially that belief, because that was the evidence that they saw for 2.5 weeks while the men were there, while they were there.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what's a shame about this is that, to some regard, the men undid some of the goodwill that they built up because Kash Patel was in the locker room. There's one person who's not staff in the locker room, and it's the FBI director. And that's what opened the door for all of this. And, they bear, some degree of responsibility for, inviting. They had a party, and then some of the guests made things. That's what happens, right? If you live in an apartment and you have a house party and the cops get called, you're the one that bears the brunt of the responsibility there. That's just kind of the way it goes, and it's unfortunate, and it's their fault.
Yeah, and I look, I do think that the guys, clearly I don't think they had any idea that this
Mm-mm.
video was going to get out. I don't know in today's day and age how they didn't think that. Obviously, somebody put it out there for the public consumption. We heard, so in the post game, just to take a little everybody back. So we heard obviously one of the first questions to Mike Sullivan in the post game press conference was, did President Trump call in? And he confirmed it. And so we were all trying to figure out what was said, because Austin Matthews and a couple of the other players
pretty
insinuated
non-specific about the understandably so.
Yeah, and they insinuated that their travel had changed. And we knew that they were going to Miami because that rerouting was public before that, but we didn't know what he was talking about. Like, so clearly we knew that something was going on that invited them to the White House. We didn't know about the State of the Union at the time. Then obviously, a couple hours later, I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see the video that somebody very pro-Trump tweeted out. I retweeted it just to essentially air out one, because I was talking to our editor Naoko about the joke, but air out exactly what happened in that locker room and what President Trump said to the players and the way that Kash Patel was acting. And next thing I know, it obviously my Twitter account erupted with people thinking that I was trying to intentionally put out a tweet of a pro MAGA supporter. But the reality is I just wanted people to see the video because it was our first really inkling of exactly what was said in that locker room.
Unfortunate break of the job, man. That's why they pay us the big bucks, is the deal with stuff like that. Okay. So Russo, you were in Italy for, my God, it feels like 6 months. It was actually just 3 weeks. I'm wondering, and I know we've heard stories about the cafeteria post game. Jack and Quinn and Dylan Larkin and Jake Ottinger, a lot of those guys have said, that they're hanging out with the women's team after until the middle of the night in the village. All that's very cool. I'm just wondering if there were other moments there between those players, that you heard about or saw or witnessed to kind of hammer home this overall point, which is that there were meaningful interactions and meaningful relationships built between the men and the women's team.
Milan. I think it was them coming to the majority of the womenness games. I mean, there were some games that they just couldn't come to because they played, the next day or things like that. But talking to Charlie McAvoy and seeing his totally genuine glee at a lot of these players winning gold that he knew of because his sister played with a lot of them in Bishop Selects and things like that. Just the fact that just the incredible definite admiration of Matthew Tkachuk talking about everybody from Layla Edwards to Caroline Harvey. Obviously we know that Quinn and Jack Hughes' mom is affiliated with the U.S. women's team as somebody that does a lot of development consulting with them. She's on the ice. She's a liaison between John Wroblewski, the coach, and the players. So there is a deep appreciation for this team and for them, for what the way that they absolutely dominated this tournament and then had to win without any adversity really in the previous games, have to go out and beat a Canada team that was not just going to lay down for and go away not swinging. I mean, that was as good a hockey game as I've covered. Canada was tremendous in that game. It took every ounce of effort in a storybook ending for the United States to come back in that game and Hillary Knight to get the tying goal and just so fittingly, then obviously an incredible play in overtime by Megan Keller. So I think there was just a great appreciation for them. And like I said, I mean, all I could say is that I talked to the women and the men throughout the tournament, and there was just constant talk about mutual respect. And obviously a lot of that went away with that one video clip of them laughing at this joke. But before the punchline, I think it is important that, again, Taylor Heisey said that she heard what Dylan Larkin and Brock Nelson said, what Matthew Tkachuk said. And again, I do think that we all need to, because we all are perfect people and never make mistakes, especially on Twitter. Everybody's perfect on there. I think that Britter Curl brought it up to me unsolicited yesterday. You have to keep the situation that they're in mind and understand that they're in this euphoric state. They all can't believe the president's on a cell phone talking to them, and they just got caught up in the moment. And I think that we've all laughed at inappropriate jokes. It doesn't cement our moral fiber and things like that. And I genuinely believe that these guys absolutely respected everything that these women did throughout this tournament. Their dominant way that they absolutely rolled the competition, and including Canada in the group stage, and appreciate everything they did. And it made for a perfect ending with 2 twin gold medals by the men and women. First time ever they've won together. Identical 2-1 overtime wins against Canada. And hopefully now this is in the past, that this doesn't overshadow what this women's team accomplished in Milan, because they were just absolutely dynamite.
I think, the point of, like you said, Britta Curl said, like, they're in the moment, they're laughing at the joke. It's like, for me, I look at it and I go, okay, but afterwards, like, you don't have to lean in, especially when, like, was the women's team called in the moment and congratulated, right? Or like the invitation isn't this like genuine, let's celebrate you too, that it feels like the men could have just been like, you know what, this isn't the time, go with the women at a later date. I get the excitement in the moment, but like when you have time to reflect on it. And that's why, like Kelly Panik's comments that you reported, like, they ring a little bit louder of like, they don't know why they expect differently. So
Yeah.
obviously the women want to get the focus back to their hockey. And I think they're doing a lot here to take the heat off the men, which shocking, right? Women, it feels like they constantly have to take the high road. I think now, like, if they want to get the focus back to their hockey, and rightfully so, because their hockey is a very exciting product. We saw it internationally, the PWHL, the NCAA, there's so much going on here. It would be really nice now if the men can do something within the next 4 years to promote that, right? Like, does it feel like, since there's so much synergy we're hearing about, right, between the men's and women's teams, like, do you think we'll see anything to show that outside of the national level sometime before the next Olympics?
Mm-hmm. It's always been one of the coolest connections between the WNBA and the NBA is that, I love seeing hoopers wearing, W jerseys, and there's always interplay and interaction between men's players and women's players in that sport. It's sustained. It's something that we saw dial up during the bubble, and it's something that's kind of continued there. And it's cool to see that maybe this is an opportunity for that to happen for the men's side and the women's side, because I would love to see continued interaction and shared growth between the respective sides of the sport. It's cool. And I hope that whatever progress was made, over those 3 weeks, it hasn't been fully undone by what's gone on over the last couple of days, and the women's players certainly seem to hope that as well. And we'll see what happens from there on out. So again,
I definitely think that on the other subject, I don't think this takes anything away from what the women did. I definitely think that what the aftermath of everybody going to the White House and players putting on the Trump hats and things like that. I definitely think that is just gonna, like, look, the players might not care, but they have to also understand that we are in an unbelievably tense, divided country right now. And
right,
that is just gonna, but that's
where they've chosen sides in a pretty real way.
And I could tell you from the Minnesota Wild perspective, there are fans that are pissed, and I guarantee you, I mean, there are fans that are going to cancel season tickets over this. And I know that maybe the players don't care about that, but that's just the reality of the world that we live in. And look, I get the elation of winning gold and all that stuff, but they have to understand that they, when they made the decision to go to the White House, that's fine. There's, I am somebody that absolutely romanticizes the White House. I love going there. I love, whenever I go to Washington, D.C., going outside the White House and just looking at there and wondering what's going on with government and things like that. But we are in a world right now where, look, and I get the incredible excitement about being invited into a place like the Oval Office. But then when you pose for pictures and put on the MAGA hat and all that stuff, you are just going to alienate a certain portion of the population.
Yeah, and that's something you either care about or you don't. They can make that.
Fans
they
also
can
need
make that decision, and that's
fans need to understand. Look, I go back to the Charles Barkley, I'm not a role model. Look, these guys have their own, just like us, just like you, just like the fans. Everybody has their own opinions and their own beliefs and things like that. But you also have to,
excuse me. I'm a role model. I know
Yeah.
that there are little boys and girls throughout Western Pennsylvania who have posters of me on their wall.
Right.
It's a responsibility I accept
Yep.
wholeheartedly.
And that's where things, I'm sure, are just gonna get diminished. Like to me, it's more the men's thing, the men's side that had this incredible goodwill of winning gold, and for a certain portion of the population, that's been sort of taken away here, and it is a shame, because what these guys did throughout the tournament deserves to be celebrated. I have no I don't think anybody should begrudge their love of country and representing the United
No.
States of America and putting that jersey on and playing for each other and beating Canada. I mean, that is all things to celebrate. But, when in this day and age, the aftermath, you just got to understand that everything's seen from the party to, going to a place where, look, that State of the Union is a political place. I am grateful that they didn't stick around, that they did leave, and that there wasn't camera shots.
Well, they were going to stand. What were they going to do? Stand there for 2 hours while someone's ranting from a podium? Like there weren't even seats for them. You played your role. You were a pawn. Now get out.
Yeah, and there were the level of worst case scenarios that was playing through my head because I had to watch that for work. That was as good as it was going to get from that standpoint, right? Like just get in, get out.
Yeah,
I slept through
get
it,
used,
so.
and yeah. That's well deserved after working.
Well, I just landed from that day
days or whatever it was.
Milan, and and I was out like a light when I got home. So
it just feels like it's such like a. Like almost like a teaching moment too, if the players want it to be of like, hey, you have all this momentum for hockey. Here's how you can lean into it. And no one's saying go party. The videos of them partying in Miami is what we all want to see. We all want to be partying and enjoying this moment, right? Because there was so much momentum behind them. But just as players don't want to be made uncomfortable and being forced to celebrate causes they don't believe in, right? Like we hear it constantly. No distractions. We cannot have these multi-million-dollar adults be uncomfortable. Cannot have that, right? Then don't alienate the fans and don't make them uncomfortable. And it feels like it's an easy lesson.
Yeah, and to your original point, like they might say this isn't a political thing, but they also needed to know that they were going to a place that was 100% going to politicize it. The second they walked onto the grounds of the White House, you have the assistant chief of staff, the assistant press secretary tweeting out pictures of them.
They're taking photos with Caroline Levitt.
You're being used as pawns, and you're not just allowing it; you're leaning into it. Like, and also like the
AI video on the White House official X account where they have Brady Tkachuk essentially ripping who plays for a Canadian team, who captains a Canadian team, ripping on Canada. Obviously it's AI, but there's a reason why they're putting it out there. So anyway, like look, I'm conflicted on this because I again have no issue with any American going to the White House when you are honored. I would give anything to see what the Oval Office looks like. And to, I remember in 1998, when we were covering the Washington Capitals, Detroit Red Wings Stanley Cup final, and a bunch of us actually got to tour the White House. And this is pre 9/11, and we got to go in that area of the West Wing and see the Oval Office. And I remember being so fascinated and so honored to be there, regardless of party. So I'm conflicted. I absolutely would give, don't begrudge these players for wanting to go there, but they had to understand that the second they're posing for pictures and putting on certain, merchandise and all that type of stuff, that you're just gonna, in today's day and age, you're gonna piss off a lot of people and have them think less of you. And again, they might not care. I know that Tage Thompson obviously has certain beliefs, and I don't begrudge him at all. Every time I talk to Tage Thompson, he's so respectful, so nice, so good to deal with. Same thing with the Tkachuks, the Hugheses. But you just got to understand now that this is the repercussions of it, and they're going to have to just deal with that when they get back to their market.
Yeah, you are who you hang out with. That's ultimately what it comes down to, and you deal with the repercussions there, and they did, and they have. That was part of what yesterday was. And like I said, look at the response Jack Hughes got from Devils fans. Like it's going to be fine for them.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Like when Quinn Hughes and Matt Boldy and Brock Faber get here,
yeah,
all the Wild fans want to see, and this will be a good segue to get to the Wild. All Wild fans want to see is them to get past the first round for the first time in an eon. And Quinn Hughes, is the second he starts, magically creating all the points and moves that he was doing before the Olympic breaks, Wild fans will fall in love with him again.
That's the way it goes.
That's just the way it goes. And these guys are good guys. Like, I mean, that's the one thing I'll say is, like, it doesn't matter. Again, whatever party you think of, like Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber, Matt Boldy, these guys are great guys. Unfortunately, there's just a certain sample population that are just gonna, sit there right now and think less of them. And that's it's a shame
that's the door they opened,
Yeah.
Yep.
and they can take the adulation and all the ovations and applause that they get whenever they play in front of those home fans for the first time. It'll be great, and they'll love it, and they can hold that close whenever they get mildly criticized by a relatively small portion of the populace. Okay, we need to get to a break, but we're going to come back with Russo, talk some Wild, talk some NHL. Stick around. All right, we're back. Sean Gentille, Shayna Goldman, Mike Russo. We're talking NHL trade board. It's the 26th of February, as I've said successfully twice now. When is the trade deadline? March 6th.
Yep, Friday.
8 days, 3 p.m.
I'm in
Eastern.
Vegas.
Oh, God. So you're going to be busy.
Well,
Yeah, right.
I've already warned people with the Wild that they got to make their trades before I get to Vegas.
You're
things to do.
You're going to be confirming deals when you're at various cigar spots.
That's true.
I know. We've been there together. I know.
Yeah.
I know how you roll. Mike, Jesper Wallstedt's on that trade board. Let's start with that because you are the Minnesota Wild. What is the status there? Like I was surprised to see him show up there now. I would, given where they are in their season, how good he's been so far, how realistic it is, that he gets moved in the short term, and how realistic is it that he gets moved?
I think the only way that it could be the short term is if it was for somebody like Robert Thomas. Right now they need a top center. The question is when if you are willing to trade Jesper Wallstedt, do you do it now in a trade for Robert Thomas, or do you do it this summer or even into next season, when all of a sudden maybe a bigger name could become available? Look, the Wild have traded a lot of assets in the last couple of years, both in the David Juracek trade, and then obviously the Quinn Hughes trade, where you trade Marco Rossi, and you trade Liam Ogren and Z Boyum and a first-round pick. So this is 2 years in a row now they've traded a first-round pick. So they're just sort of, this team that had a ton of assets doesn't have a ton anymore. Unless you're trading a Danilo Urov, who looks like he's going to be a really, really good centerman for a long time in the National Hockey League, Jesper Wallstedt's the big name that I think a lot of teams would be interested in if you needed a goaltender. So I do genuinely believe at some point they're going to trade Wallstedt. The question is, does it happen now, or do they decide to wait, and just because maybe this summer or maybe into next season somebody of a bigger name, they want to go big game hunting like Bill Guerin? You don't trade for Quinn Hughes and just be done. So my guess is that it doesn't happen now, that they use him maybe this summer if something else becomes available, or even into next season. So we'll see where it goes, but he's absolutely somebody that I think the Wild would consider moving. I know that scares the heck out of Wild fans. But when you have Philip Gustafsson signed for another 5 years after this, they've given themselves the ability to, move a goaltender, and Jesper is obviously that name.
But
Shayna, you're no, sorry. I wanted to get your
Shayna's about to implode over there.
No, I was gonna ask.
She's Rob Thomas superfan number one. We need to
listen.
we need to get.
Did
her
I
on
stay
this.
up last night to write half a story on Robert Thomas? I did. Okay, no. My question was more of you look at how the Wild's goaltending's going this season, and heading into the Olympics, the last month of play there, Gustafsson's numbers have really fallen off, and he was shaky at the Olympics. Does that change anything for right now? And also, it kind of reminds me of the Bruins having that perfect goaltending situation Like, if you want to be contending with Quinn Hughes, does that change what you can do in net? Like, if you don't maximize this tandem enough, or does, a lot of people are talking about Hlavai after his performance with Slovakia. Like, does anything change?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think that they should keep the both of them right now, and continue with their pretty much strict rotation. The one thing I will say about Gus, and his numbers have absolutely fallen off, is that he's definitely winning games. They've won a lot of games, and he's been a big reason for that. But you're right. I mean, now all of a sudden, if you trade Wally, you are going to have to go get a goaltender in some capacity, unless Marc-Andre Fleury is going to come out of the woodwork and save the day as a backup. And he has been practicing every day here since they've been back.
No, we can't. We can't do the Fleury retirement tour again.
I think that really, like, I genuinely
here.
believe that's the big reason why he doesn't want to consider it, is because I think he'd be embarrassed by that. But to your point, I mean, then they would have to go get a goalie. I think it's more of a summer type of move. Like, if I had to guess, I think that they're going to wind up doing something like a Vincent Trochek or somebody like that. But we'll see. I mean, I agree with you. Like, they have a good thing going right now where both of them are winning games, and why mess with that unless it's absolutely for a sure thing superstar. And I love Robert Thomas too, but he has been oft injured.
Mhm.
And I don't think that Wally is going to be the only asset in there. And again, the more assets they give up, the more it takes them out of potential other things that could happen in the offseason or even into next season. So my guess is that he doesn't go now, but I absolutely think that Bill Guerin would consider it.
I mean, Bill Guerin and Chris Drury just sat in a box day after day in Milan and watched Vince Trochek play hockey together, right? That seems almost
Seems
almost
like
too
too
easy.
perfect of a fit too. Like,
Yeah.
Is he your?
I will say he spent a lot of time with Doug Armstrong too. So,
Man.
So there's a lot of reasons.
That's very funny. Let's talk about a couple of the other centers on that list, Shayna. We got Kadri, we got Ryan O'Reilly's on there now. Pettersson's been on there. Shane Wright. Are there any names for you, Shayna, that stick out?
Yeah, I would say the Ryan O'Reillys and the Shane Wrights of the world are like the most interesting, because Ryan O'Reilly is still a very good player, and I think you just have to like sift through what's gone on in Nashville to like remember that, like, the passing's still there, the two-way impact's still there, and I think we see it with both him and Stamkos, and this whole changing of management for Nashville is just another wrinkle to it. But like, it's so different. We see so many veterans, right? Like, he's 35, Kadri's 35, so you can go that direction. But Shane Wright maybe is the most interesting name on the list otherwise, because this is someone that it's a reclamation project of sorts, right? Like, Robert Thomas is having a down year on the score sheet. That's not a reclamation project. That's a true top line center. Shane Wright, over the last few years hasn't been trusted to do much in Seattle and hasn't had the chance to sink or swim, but also hasn't done enough to earn the playing time. And when you don't have the most dynamic skill set, he's someone that's more of like a jack of all trades for centers. It can be harder to pop in a lineup. And it just feels like it hasn't happened, but it kind of feels on brand for the Kraken. But is it something another team is going to be willing to bet on? For a contender, he's very cheap. Or for an up and coming team, he could be the future. Like, that's one name I'm keeping an eye on.
And Russo, is Ryan O'Reilly a fit for what they potentially need in Minnesota?
Absolutely. Maybe even more of a fit, because I think he'd come cheaper. I think there's a lot of appreciation for him. He is somebody that can play up and down your lineup. He wins a ton of draws. They love Trochek too. They have a need for right shots. Charlie Coyle's another one that I could see the Wild, if the price is too high for a Trochek, maybe they go after. I know that there is a lot of respect that Bill Guerin has for Charlie Coyle. He's told me that in the past, that of that core that was traded years ago that he really liked, by Paul Fenton, that he really liked Coyle. I don't think Coyle's a difference maker though. I obviously have covered him in the past. Great guy, great character guy. Is somebody that just though will kind of offensively always leave you wanting more, where I think Trochek has proven in the past that he could score as well as play a defensive role. We just saw him be a lead on the penalty kill over in Milan as well. So I think a lot of teams, look, there's such a deficiency right now in number of centers out there. that I see a lot of teams going after Trochek as sort of the number one option because I think the Robert Thomas price is extraordinary. Detroit, I could see going after him. We know that he's been in Carolina in the past, and I think he liked playing with Brind'Amour. We've seen reports where he'd like to stay in the Eastern Conference, so we'll see. The only thing I can tell you about Trochek is I have confirmed that the Wild are not on his no trade list. And there were a lot of jokes in Milan about him joining the Wild. He jokingly tried to get in on the Wild picture on day one.
Oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So. Look, I mean, Bill Guerin loves him.
Put him on the roster.
Just make it easier.
We can pencil.
He should have just been sent home on the plane. There wasn't a trade freeze. It's like, you know what?
He should have just gone to Colorado with those guys.
Yeah, that's why I keep on quickly looking at my phone. You just never know. Like,
so you never know.
Now, to me, the season the trade season starts today. Everybody's sober. Everybody's back with their teams.
Yeah.
So now it's like. And also when a lot of times when there's not a lot of one position out there, or there's only a couple guys that really make the most sense, you want to get a jump on it. And so I'm half expecting that if the Wild are going to trade for a center, it's going to be in the next couple days or early next week.
Interesting. Okay.
In advance, as we hope, because I'm in Vegas and I got things to do.
Like, you're busy. I'm not going to out the Russo hotspots. So the Russo army doesn't show up seeking autographs and trying to blow you up at your various Vegas haunts, but I take solace in knowing that you'll be there.
Yeah. It's funny because I do have a lot of friends that are going on this trip.
Yeah.
And all of them's like, hey, you want to go to dinner on March 5th? I'm like, the trade deadline's the next day. Like, if we're doing dinner, it can't include any alcohol. And it needs to be extremely close to my hotel. So I can run back there if there's news. So.
You're going to be drinking whatever.
But I will say the history of
iced espressos at night. And
the history of Bill Guerin is getting a jump on this. So I do think that he's going to try. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll let you go so you can be prepared for whenever they trade for center X in the next 45 minutes. Because I just
center V, one might say.
Center VT. Very interesting. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
What a great backdrop that Shayna has. I was admiring it when we had the full shot. I was like looking at all the games.
Makes us look.
It's definitely more books than I've ever read in my life.
She's well lit, lots of books. Unlike me, who's sitting in front of a lamp that looks like a rooster in a very dark room
with a bunch of shades. But this is why Shayna's smarter than both of us.
Correct.
This is why anytime I need to put anything smart in one of my articles, I reach out to Shayna.
Yeah, so. And she's and very specifically not me. Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys. Bye.
All right, there goes Russo. I'm Sean Gentille, back with Shayna Goldman, SG1, as I've started calling her.
It's different than Girl Dom. I'll take it.
No, he is boy Shayna. Get it right. I would never besmirch you like that. We are excited that hockey's back. Like, this is again something that's unfortunately been lost in the shuffle. There's 24, 25, 26 games left on most teams' schedule here. We're picking one team per person per conference that we're excited to watch down the stretch. Shayna, who in the East do you got?
Yeah, I'm so excited to go back to NHL competition. I love it. Digital ad boards. 2 offside reviews last night. I'm back. Okay.
The ad board disparity is just so painful.
When they changed the boards to the brighter colors, I was like, this is it. This is what I've been missing in my life. It's bright. It's colorful. I am like locked in. And
going to like shades of green and blue that I think are actually in your hair right now on the boards and on the boards in Milan.
I'm biased. What can I say? Okay, a team I'm excited about in the East. I'm excited about the Montreal Canadiens because they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
They play an exciting style. I would love to see what Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson do from here, because sometimes we see players fueled by spite, and neither of them were on Team USA. So, that adds a little bit of, interest to it. The other part of it is the goaltending's been all over the place this year, and we've seen them now make a change in their goalie coaching department. And I'm curious to see if that helps Dobish kind of keep more of a consistent level, or if Montembeault can get his game back. But the trade deadline now is like this fun wrinkle in it for them because they had such a strong offseason last year. They took such a measured approach to go for players in the right age range. And it feels like now they've had a lot of growth from their guys, right? Like Slavkovsky now isn't just some passenger to Caulfield and Suzuki. He is the guy who can help drive a line. So what do they need to do around this really exciting core? And do they change the strategy from the summer, or do they keep looking for those players in that same age range to just keep it on track together?
For sure. I mean, everybody loves Uri, baby. Like that's like one of the big takeaways from the Olympics, isn't it? Frankie Corrado is just he's gonna try to adopt Uri. I don't know if that's I don't know what the laws on that are in Canada, but he's gonna make it happen. Yeah, I'm pumped for them too. This is like an umbrella pick for me. I'm going with the Washington Capitals. They're getting Pierre-Luc Dubois back. They've gotten him back. That's a big deal for them, and was a big reason why they've been so uneven throughout various points of the season. But I'm picking them as like an avatar for that middle of the Metropolitan Division in general, because that is a mosh pit. It's going to get really interesting down the stretch. I don't know how good any of those teams are behind Carolina. I don't know if any of them are good, period. We're going to see Pittsburgh without Sidney Crosby. We're going to see the Islanders try to keep things going. We're going to see the Columbus Blue Jackets, who've won 7 in a row now. Those are a bunch of teams that are all currently within 5 points of each other, with varying degrees of injury issues and overall inconsistency and whatever else. Not just for the wild card, but for the 2 spot and the 3 spot in the Metro Division. It's going to be really interesting down the stretch to see who comes out of that, because 2 teams are going to have to make it, but behind Carolina, and I don't know who it's going to be. You got Pittsburgh, you got the Islanders, you got the Caps, you got the Blue Jackets. I think we can write off the Flyers. But those 4 teams, fighting it out and turning the next 24 games into a rock fight or whatever it is going to be very, very interesting. And I think the Capitals for me are the face of all that.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot because like they also have a good track record of buying talent over the last year too, right? And knowing here's how to maximize it within their lineup. Spencer Carberry is a great coach, so it just like adds another element to it.
Maybe they should trade for Ryan O'Reilly.
Maybe.
What do you think of that?
I don't hate it.
Western Conference team, please.
The Edmonton Oilers. They're never boring. I mean, come on. Here's the thing. I would love to say I am so excited about the Utah Mammoth because I am, and their product, like their playing style is great. And Logan Cooley's going to be back, and that's great. And they're in the playoff race. But the Edmonton Oilers, no matter what I do, just always pull me back in. I didn't, like last night I was trying to write during the late games and they're playing the Ducks and everything's fine. And then they blow the game because, oh, look, Tristan Jarry has another bad game. And it's like a reminder of why Connor McDavid only signed for 2 years there, because you need to know the direction of your team is sound. And you don't know that in Edmonton. Multiple GMs, and you don't know that. And their current one doesn't have a great track record for team building and making these savvy depth moves. That's why we're focusing on the Mangiapane contract and the Trent Frederick deal. They shouldn't matter. But when you're so up against the cap and then you take on more and commit the rest of Connor McDavid's tenure to Tristan Jarry, it's like, okay, here we go. Like the nurse mistakes last night, the goaltending mistakes last night. You're like, can they keep outscoring their problems? What are they going to do here?
They're the textbook definition of like the penny jar, right? Like or the dollar jar. Put some change in there, like over the course of time, like it's going to add up and eventually count for something. It's that way for them, except with overpaying for depth players by a little bit. It's like you overpay someone by $1 million or $500,000 or $1.5 million or whiff on trade for Tristan Jarry, yes, whatever, that hit is what it is, but all of a sudden you don't have money to spend when you need it most. Oh boy. And then of course we got Connor McDavid getting annoyed by questions and then losing games based on poor goaltending and bad play by Darnell Nurse, same as it ever was. It's incredible. I think I'm saying Vegas.
Okay.
I'm watching them down the stretch to see just how far up in the echelon of cup contenders they deserve to go, because they have been a pretty wildly inconsistent. This goes back to last year too. we don't know what we're getting them in a given, 6-game, 8-game, 10-game stretch. And I think, we have seen Marner find his space in that lineup, certainly over the last month or 6 weeks.
Even.
Ahead, was that?
At center, too. Like, very impressive.
I love it. And but also there's still work to be done. I think we need to see if Tomas Hertl can turn some of the way he played into the Olympics into NHL momentum. That's going to be very interesting. Vegas is a team that I want to like more, and that's been true of them, I think, for a couple seasons now. And they're with 58 games left, so they got 24 games to go. I'm very, very interested to see what they look like headed into the playoffs, because again, this is a team that, is streaky in both directions, and who knows what happens when April rolls around, right?
Yeah, and it feels like for as much as they've addressed any weakness they have, they're like, we're going to buy and fix it. The center position, replenishing their winger depth, fixing the blue line. This year, they already added Rasmus Anderson. They have done, I think, a pretty poor job in net for the most part. And you look at it this year of this situation, you look at the goalies that have been moved in favor of others, like, having Aiden Hill as a number one, like, they're not a team that needs elite goaltending, but you can see just how much they've crumbled when the goaltending has been so below average. So it just like adds another wrinkle for them. Like how strong of a team can you build in front of the blue paint that you don't need that?
Logan Thompson gently waving from Washington, saying hello.
I remember he even said, how good of a goalie is he outside of the Vegas system? Like, I think we found out.
Pretty good. I think Vegas wouldn't mind having him around at the moment. No, so you know what? Let's get Caps Vegas in the Cup final. My two teams. Let's do it.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
A nice rematch.
Run it back. Put it down. Yeah, we're calling it now. Shayna's on board with that too. Shayna Goldman. No. Cup picks. Caps in Vegas. Shayna Goldman.
I love to pick a team outside the playoff picture to make the Stanley Cup final on February 26th. Book it, everyone. I mean, listen, it could happen. If you listen to Tage Thompson, it's not going to be the Buffalo Sabres in the Stanley Cup final because they are not going to the White House.
We're going to leave that. We're going to leave that for someone else. How about that? Thank you, Shayna, for the time. Always. And thank you, Russo, wherever you are. He might be in Vegas as we speak. Prospect Series returns tomorrow with a new episode. Haley and I are back next Thursday. Until then, enjoy the 12-game nights. It's back, baby. Thursdays. We love it. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.